Out of nowhere, 29 pirate boats tore across the waves, racing toward a massive Saudi supertanker. Each boat bristled with guns and RPGs, and the pirates moved with terrifying coordination. On board, the crew scrambled for cover as grappling hooks clanged against the steel hull and bullets ripped through the air. The attack had begun, and the world was about to witness one of the boldest maritime hijackings in history. The pirates had underestimated their enemy. From the horizon, warships and helicopters appeared, closing in fast. U.S. Navy forces were ready to strike with precision and overwhelming firepower. There would be no negotiations, no mercy. Every second counted. Every decision meant life or death. For the pirates, it was the greatest heist of their lives. For the crew, survival against impossible odds. And for the U.S. Navy, it was a mission to demonstrate unmatched power on the high seas. The Sirius Star wasn't just another oil tanker. It was a floating city. Over 1,000 feet long, taller than many skyscrapers if stood on end, and carrying close to 2 million barrels of oil. Its cargo alone was worth over $100 million, and the ship itself, owned by Saudi Aramco, was a symbol of wealth and power. But out there, hundreds of miles from land, that massive ship was nothing more than a slow-moving target. On the bridge, Captain Marwan Al-Jabri kept his eyes locked on the horizon. His 25-man crew moved quietly, focused, but uneasy. For weeks, there had been warnings. Whispers of Somali pirates attacking ships in the Gulf of Aden. Stories spread like wildfire among sailors. Unarmed crews held hostage, ransoms worth millions, and ruthless men who ruled the seas with AK-47s and RPGs. The Sirius Star was far from the Gulf of Aden, sailing deep in the Indian Ocean. But danger had no borders, and the captain knew it. For hours, the sea was calm. Nothing but the hum of engines and the crash of waves against the giant hull. Then came a sound. Faint at first, like a mosquito in the distance. Engines, fast ones. "Captain, small boats, fast ones!" a lookout shouted. The crew rushed to the windows. On the horizon, tiny dots grew larger. Speedboats, skiffs, racing across the waves. Not one, not two, but dozens. The captain's stomach dropped. These weren't fishermen. These were pirates. The skiffs cut through the water like predators. At their head was a tall man with a scar down his cheek, Abdi Nur, the pirate leader. He raised his AK-47 high, giving the signal. Instantly, the boats fanned out, circling the massive tanker like wolves around wounded prey. "Full speed ahead," Captain Al-Jabri barked, but it was useless. The Sirius Star was built for carrying oil, not outrunning enemies. At full throttle, it reached 16 knots, barely 18 miles per hour. The pirate skiffs flew across the waves at nearly 30 knots, almost twice as fast. The pirates closed in. Gunfire erupted. The rattle of AK-47s echoed across the sea. Bullets pinged off the steel hull. Tracer rounds streaked through the air like fiery comets. Then came the whoosh of an RPG. A rocket slammed into the tanker's side with a deafening explosion, sending fire and smoke curling upward. The crew ducked, terrified. The Sirius Star shook under the blast. Inside the bridge, the captain grabbed the radio, his voice tense. "Mayday, mayday! This is Sirius Star. We are under attack. Armed pirates on board. Immediate assistance required." But deep in the Indian Ocean, help was hours away. The pirates weren't aiming to sink the ship. They didn't need to. All they needed was fear. And it was working. Within minutes, the Sirius Star was surrounded. Grappling hooks clanged against the steel sides. Pirates climbed the ladders, one after another, swarming the tanker like ants. The crew had no weapons, no defenses. They huddled together as masked men stormed inside, screaming orders in Somali and broken English, rifles pressed against heads. "Hands up! Don't move!" The bridge was taken. The captain was forced to his knees. The pirates had done it. They had hijacked the largest oil tanker in human history. News broke within hours. Across the world, television screens flashed. Saudi oil supertanker hijacked. $100 million cargo taken hostage. Markets shook. Oil prices surged. Governments panicked. This wasn't just piracy anymore. This was economic warfare. In Riyadh, officials at Saudi Aramco were stunned. A ship of this size, 1,080 feet long, carrying nearly a quarter of Saudi Arabia's daily oil exports, was now in the hands of Somali pirates. The ransom could be in the tens of millions. In London, insurers calculated the cost. If tankers weren't safe even this far out at sea, shipping routes around Africa could become the new normal, adding billions to global trade. And in Washington, Pentagon officials held emergency meetings. This wasn't just about oil. This was about power. The question was clear: who would stop them? Enter the superpower. Less than 48 hours later, the answer came. The U.S. Navy moved. The USS San Antonio, a massive amphibious assault ship carrying helicopters, Marines, and elite SEALs, was rerouted. With it came the USS Porter, a guided missile destroyer bristling with weapons. Admiral James Richardson, a hardened veteran, stood before his crew. His words were short and sharp. "Gentlemen, this is not just another pirate attack. They have taken the largest oil tanker in history. The world is watching. Failure is not an option. We will bring American power to bear. These pirates picked the wrong ship." The order was given. Within hours, Seahawk helicopters thundered into the skies, their rotors slicing the humid air. U.S. destroyers closed in on the tanker's location. Navy snipers took position, scopes locked onto pirate skiffs. The United States was coming. Shadows over the ocean. On board the Sirius Star, pirate leader Abdi Nur paced the deck, proud of his prize. His men laughed and shouted, firing rifles in the air. To them, this was victory. But when Nur glanced upward, his smile faded. Shadows moved above. Seahawk helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights sweeping across the tanker. Far in the distance, gray warships approached, their silhouettes unmistakable. "Americans," Nur muttered. His men froze. They had fought European patrols before. They had even chased away smaller security teams. But this was different. This was the United States Navy, the most powerful naval force on Earth. And the Navy wasn't bluffing. The pirates scrambled to defend themselves. Skiffs circled the tanker, engines roaring, men waving rifles defiantly. But the USS Porter was waiting. From its deck, the phalanx CIWS, an automated Gatling gun capable of firing 4,500 rounds per minute, came to life. The sound was deafening, like a chainsaw tearing the sky. Streams of glowing tracers ripped across the ocean, tearing into a pirate skiff. In an instant, the boat exploded into flames, debris flying into the air. The other skiffs panicked, scattering like frightened birds. The message was clear. The U.S. Navy wasn't here to negotiate. They were here to win. Inside the Sirius Star's bridge, the crew sat trembling under pirate guard. But even the pirates were nervous now. Every shadow, every rumble of distant engines, every flash of light in the sky reminded them that they were surrounded. Some pirates argued they should surrender before it was too late. Others shouted back, saying the Americans would never risk destroying a $100 million ship full of oil. Abdi Nur banged his rifle against the wall. "Hold your ground!" he roared. But even he knew the truth. The clock was ticking. As night fell, the Indian Ocean grew darker than ink. But above the Sirius Star, helicopters hovered like vultures. Drones circled silently, their cameras feeding live images back to U.S. command. And deep inside the USS San Antonio, Navy SEALs prepared for the mission. Weapons checked, night vision goggles adjusted, rope lines ready. Their task was simple, but deadly: retake the largest oil tanker ever hijacked. For the crew of the Sirius Star, it would be the longest night of their lives. As the Sirius Star sat in the grip of armed Somali pirates, the world held its breath. For the pirates, it was the greatest heist in maritime history. For the crew, it was a nightmare. And for the United States Navy, it was a challenge that demanded action. Less than 2 days after the hijacking, the Indian Ocean was no longer quiet. The USS San Antonio, an amphibious assault ship the size of a small city, cut through the waves. With it came the USS Porter, a guided missile destroyer bristling with advanced weaponry. Above the ocean, MH-60 Seahawk helicopters thundered across the sky, their blades chopping through humid air. Their sensors locked onto the Sirius Star, circling like hawks over prey. On board the San Antonio, Admiral James Richardson stood before his men. A veteran of naval battles, his face was calm, but his words carried steel. This isn't just another pirate attack. They've taken the largest oil tanker in history. The world is watching us. Gentlemen, failure is not an option. These pirates picked the wrong ship. Every sailor, every Marine, every SEAL knew what was at stake. The United States was about to show the world why its navy was feared across every ocean. On the Sirius Star, pirate leader Abdi Nur stood on the deck, trying to hide his unease. His men cheered, waving rifles in the air, convinced they had already won. But then, on the horizon, gray warships appeared. Silent, steady, unstoppable. "Americans," Nur muttered, his face tightening. The pirates had faced European patrols before, even driven off small private security ships. But this was different. This was the US Navy, a force with enough power to sink their skiffs, the tanker, and every boat in sight within minutes. The Americans didn't fire immediately. Instead, they circled, their destroyers and helicopters sending a clear message. "You are surrounded." Loudspeakers boomed across the waves in English and Somali. "This is the United States Navy. Release the vessel immediately. Lay down your weapons, or lethal force will be used." Nur clenched his teeth. He believed the Americans wouldn't dare risk destroying $100 million worth of oil. He barked orders to his men. "Hold your ground. Fire into the air. Show them we are not afraid." Gunshots cracked into the sky, but the Navy was already tightening the noose. At dawn, several pirate skiffs tried to circle behind the Sirius Star, attempting to cut off any U.S. rescue attempt. The response was instant. From the USS Porter, the Phalanx CIWS, a Gatling gun that could spit out 4,500 rounds per minute, roared to life. The sound was deafening, like a giant buzzsaw shredding the air. Glowing tracers streaked across the waves. One pirate skiff exploded into flames, flipping violently in the air before vanishing into the sea. The pirates screamed. Some tried to fire RPGs back at the destroyer, but their rockets never had a chance. The Phalanx shredded them mid-air, turning them into harmless sparks. The message was clear. The US Navy wasn't here to negotiate. They were here to win. While the destroyer kept the pirates distracted, another shadow approached from above. A Seahawk helicopter flew low and fast, hugging the waves. Inside sat a team of US Navy SEALs, the most elite warriors in the world. They wore night vision goggles, body armor, and carried M4 carbines with laser sights. Each man knew his role. Each had trained for this moment countless times. The helicopter hovered dangerously close to the massive tanker, its rotors shaking the air. Then, like ghosts, the SEALs slid down ropes one by one, landing silently on the steel deck. The pirates never saw them coming. In the darkness, chaos erupted. The SEALs moved like shadows, fast and silent. One team swept through the engine room, securing control of the ship's power systems. Another advanced toward the bridge. Flashbang grenades exploded. Bright light and deafening bangs stunned the pirates. Men who moments earlier had been screaming in triumph now stumbled, blinded and terrified. "Move! Move! Secure the bridge!" A SEAL commander shouted. Pirates fired blindly, their bullets ricocheting off steel, but the SEALs answered with precision. Controlled bursts of gunfire echoed as one pirate after another fell. A crewman later said it was like watching ghosts appear from nowhere, moving too fast to follow, striking with deadly accuracy. Above, Navy snipers had already taken position inside helicopters circling the tanker. Their scopes locked onto pirate leaders. One pirate raised his AK-47, pressing it against a hostage's head. But before he could fire, a sniper squeezed the trigger. One shot, one kill. The pirate collapsed instantly. Another sniper neutralized a pirate trying to fire an RPG at the SEALs on deck. The rocket never left the tube. The pirates' morale crumbled. As the SEALs pushed forward, Abdi Nur tried to rally his men. He screamed, waving his rifle, insisting they could still hold out. But even he knew it was over. The USS Winston S. Churchill fired another warning barrage into the water, sinking two more pirate skiffs. The tanker was surrounded by overwhelming firepower. When a SEAL stormed the bridge, Pointing his M4 at Noor's chest, the scar-faced pirate dropped his weapon. One by one, the others followed, their hands trembling in the air. The hijacking was over. The deck of the Sirius Star was littered with bodies. Of the 29 skiffs that had left Somalia, only burning wreckage remained. Dozens of pirates were dead. A handful were captured, bound in zip ties, their faces blank with shock. The wounded SEALs were evacuated by helicopter. Treated within minutes, none died. The world watched in disbelief as news broke hours later. A Saudi supertanker worth nearly $100 million had been hijacked and retaken in one of the largest naval operations since World War II. For the U.S. Navy, this wasn't just about saving one tanker. It was about sending a message. The Mark 45 naval guns had shown unmatched precision, blasting pirate skiffs to pieces. The failing CIWS had shredded rockets midair, proving no weapon could touch an American warship. The MH-60 Seahawk helicopters had delivered SEALs onto the deck in seconds. The M4 carbines, night vision, and sniper rifles had given the SEALs total dominance in close combat. It was a demonstration of superpower dominance at sea. To every criminal gang, to every pirate leader, the message was clear. If you challenge the U.S. Navy, you will lose. For the pirates who dreamed of fortune, the hijacking ended in chains. For the crew of the Sirius Star, it was survival against impossible odds. And for the world, it became a story of how one of the boldest acts of piracy in history was crushed by the unstoppable force of the United States Navy. The ocean had always been a place of danger and uncertainty. But after the Sirius Star, one thing was certain. When the stakes are high and when the seas are threatened, the U.S. Navy remains the ultimate power at sea.